Hello everyone, I'm on to this week's lap guide tutorial for the GT3 Sprint Week here at Le Mans. This lap we'll be looking at it with the BMW, so let's take a look around. So we've got a decent run up to turn 1. Just make sure you bring the car over to the middle or close to the wall. Don't just drive here on the outside, you're travelling a bit too much extra distance for no reason. You'll see people drive up against the wall as well, so just aim for the middle, just crossing over this line here. Bring the car out to the outside. You see we're so on this lap's literally touching the outside gravel. All you want to do with this is just help to widen up the entry to turn 1. Be nice and smooth with the steering. Just be a bit careful. The cars can be a bit loose, especially on the cold tyres at the start of the race, due to we're running low wing here. So just be a bit wary of that. But the main key thing here into turn 1 is you want to be aiming to cut over the inside curb, as so does here. He cuts over it. Has a small bleed of power off now before he brakes, just to help settle the car and just slow the car down a little bit, as it's quite easy from here to go in a little bit too deep into turn 2, mess up the engine, hit the ABS, or miss. So just be a bit wary of that. So from here, does a little lift, but the main point from now is as soon as you're around the corner, you brake in a nice straight line all the way in up to where this total sign is here before you start turning in. But it's a progressive brake. You don't just jump on the brake at 90-95% brake now into the corner. Due to, if you do that, you end up in the ABS, you overheat the fronts, and you end up missing the inside curb. A load of things can happen quite easily here at Le Mans, so just be a bit careful of that. But from here, just brake in a nice straight line. Bring the car over to the right hand side a little bit if you need as well. You can get away with running the car on the outside curb. But just trail brake it in. You see, so it is his peak brake pressure now, but it's not instant, so it allows you to carry a little bit more speed into the corner. Down to third, turn in. You're going to be now aiming to be cutting over the inside curb here into turn 2, basically touching the gravel on the way in. Got to cut as much as you can on the way in. Trail brake it all the way in. Soto on this lap actually goes down to second here. You can do that in some cars. You can do this late downshift, one extra gear to help rotate the car in, and then have a better exit. For me, I always like to keep it one gear higher in third. Always, just it has a nicer bounce on the way in, on the cut. You see, Soto now has it on power already, bouncing it. Whereas with third, you can just roll it in a bit more and bounce over the curb. But the main important factor here is you want to be cutting completely over, and your left wheel should be just touching the gravel on the inside. Because of this, it allows you to cut over to the left-hand side, keep it tighter over to the left, which then obviously will help you maximize the right when you go over the next curb. If you're bouncing off this curb, right, and you're out here in the middle of the track, it makes the right super tight, and that's where people then get misled into cutting more of that inside curb and getting the slow down on the inside. Normally, you're getting the slow down on the inside because you've set up the turn 2 wrong on the inside. So, you see Soto now gets on power, bleeds it in. Still, he's trying to keep the car over to the left-hand side. He's not letting the car bounce out here. Very important you keep the car over to the left-hand side of the track to maximize it when you swing it into the right, to allow that car to allow the flow of the car. From here, on power. Doesn't go up to 100%, up to 80% and bleeds back off. But it's very key to have a bit of power on, 50-60% as you go over this next curb on the right-hand side. Just nibble over the right. Don't fully cut over it. If you cut over it like here, that's where you get the slow down on the inside. So just be a bit careful of that. But it is very key that you cut over a little bit of this curb. And you see, just cut over it. Slowly build the power back up. It's very easy here just to jump on the power straight away as the car's bouncing around over the curb and the bumps. And then you get this huge snap on the exit. Last thing you want at Le Mans is any sort of slip on exits, as the next sector, the car will be super loose with the rear. And with the low wing here, it will be very, very rough. So just be a bit careful on power, just be a bit smooth. Also, being smooth on power here is also just faster. If you're just jumping on the throttle instantly, banging it up to 90% sliding around, you're going to lose a tenth for free every time. So, but from here, just run it out wide. People forget. You can use a little bit of this on the outside, as long as your right wheels are on the white line. That's all that matters. So at this point here, if I go chase, this point here, absolutely fine. Here, you just got to make sure you got your right wheels going onto the white line just before you cut into these bollards. From here, bring it straight back off through this next little chicane. into T5, what you want to do is, you see how you've got me, like, you're cutting over the inside, you're trying to maximize all the inside usage here. But as soon as we come off this and we break into like a straight line, so now you're going to start thinking about applying your braking. Be nice and smooth. Again, it's very easy to, like, if you jump on the brakes too aggressive and you're very aggressive with your inputs, be it your braking or your steering, the car will snap into it. It's very easy to do that and lose the car here. But just try and brake in a nice straight line, 60-70% brake, down to 4th initially on the way in. You can do this in 4th or 3rd. Soto will, on this lap, for instance, go down to 3rd once it's into the corner. But again, same as turn 2, kind of a driver preference. Also, the same concept. Be in this white line, following this curb. And you're aiming, you can actually just about see it in the replay when you're static, but when you're actually driving, you actually see this like curb has like a massive dip here. This is where you're going to be picking up the power and maximizing your exit. So you see that we're going over this bit into the dip now. So it's on the power, fully on the curb. Holds it about 80% and then 100% and commits to it on the exit. And with that, it gives you a nice clean run, no interference, and it sets you up nicely for the fast right. From here as well, so at this point here, goes around the curb. Absolutely fine. You can just follow this around. You can also, depending on the car, the BMW, the Mercedes, I think the NSX as well can get away with it. You can actually just drive your right wheels completely over the inside at this point here and just follow this where my cursor is. Kind of driver preference on how you want to do it. Can be a bit risky because the car can bottom out, but you can do it if you want. Either way, you come off the curb at the same point. Be careful on the outside here. Again, very easy to dip a wheel on the outside here. And as soon as you dip a wheel here, the car will drag out. So just be a bit wary of that. But try and use as much road as you can. Into Tet Rouge. Very tricky. Lucky enough, well, not lucky enough, but they've changed the off-track and the slowdown here now. Now you get the off-track on the outside, which is a bit strange, a bit annoying. So just got to be a bit more careful on that on the way out. But on the entry to Tet Rouge, same approach. So you've got this like flag sign here. So between this runoff here and the sign, this little area here is your little like braking zone. Just enough to settle the car down, set it up into Tet Rouge to maximise the exit. So you want to slow the car down on the way in and power all the way through, because obviously you've got a massive run down the Mulsanne after this. So it's all about the exit. Any sort of slide, any sort of jab of the brake, any sort of overcorrection here is going to cost you so much time down the straight. So going a little bit softer and maximise the exit is always where I'd always try and approach this. So on this lap, and how I would do it, have the sign, or if you don't see the sign, you've got this nice line across the track here as like an indicator. Here, lift off, little brake of like 20%, and then what you want to do is, before you get to the curb, you see Soto's doing it perfectly here, build the power up to about 70-80%, cut over the inside curb. Very important that you cut over this inside curb. If I go to chase here, very key to do this. It just rotates the car for free for you, and yeah, it helps the entry. If you go around the curb, you run the risk of running out a bit wide and getting the off track. At least with this, you'll know when you drive the track. You hit the inside curb here at Tet Rouge, it just rotates the car. Just how it is, unfortunately. So you have to use this curb on the inside. But then as soon as you bounce off the curb, so now, and what you should do is go to up to 100% and drive all the way out. And make sure you're back on before the end. So play that in full because Tet Rouge is so important here. So soft on the way in, power, 100% power. And with that, it gives you a nice exit and a nice run down Mulsanne. Any sort of sliding there, again, it will really compromise your whole sector down here. Little trick as well, or whatever, people forget, make sure you keep it in the middle. Always just follow this middle part of the track. So into the first chicane on the Mulsanne. Very tricky with the braking here. Be very wary of the wind and the wind directions. It's very easy to overshoot it here if you've got a tailwind, underdrive it if you've got a headwind, crosswinds on the way in, depending on how much it's going to affect the car on the apexes into the corner. So be a bit wary of that. You've got enough time to check that on the straight up to here if you have caps open, for instance. But normally the concept is, you see where this like yellow marking is on the outside barrier here? Around this area here is your braking, but bring the car fully over its left hand side. So you see Soto now brakes, But again, it's not an instant jump on the brake at 80-90%. It's a build up. It jumps to like 50-60 and then it'll build up to 90% on the way into the actual main entry of the chicane. At the 100 board now, you see the brake pressure has gone up about 30%. Key, keep your right wheels just over the white line, left hand side of the car fully over the left. Cut past this cone. This poor cone will get ejected every lap, so don't worry about that. And just from here, you're going to have a slow turning in. And all you want to do here is you're aiming at this point to get your right wheels to cut over the inside curb here on the entry. Can do a late downshift as well here to third. It's quite nice as well on the BMW, for example. But you see, off the brake now, aiming to cut over the inside curb. As you can see, we've got chase. Very important, you just get your right wheels over the top. Don't fully get over it and like have more than this. If you can do any more of this, you do run the risk of getting the off track or the slowdown on the way in. But yeah, it's like a second and slowdown as well if you get it, so it's very costly. So just a little nibble on the top of it. Back on the brakes then in between, because it's very important now. This is the most important curb of the whole chicane. Same with the second chicane. This middle one is so important because if you get your left wheel up on the inside here, it just gives you so much free rotation and it allows you then to have a nice exit with the traction, like fully focus on the exit because you've got all the rotation for free. You don't have to worry about that. You can focus on being nice and progressive on the throttle, having a clean exit. If you miss this, the exit is just always terrible. So it's important you cut over this inside here. You see, so up on the curb fully, on the power, build it up 70-80%, hold it then 100% once it's off the curb, run it all the way out. Just make sure you're not fully, as long as your left wheel's like in line with this part of the curb, it's okay. If you go over this bit, that's where you get the slowdown. Then from here, off the curb, don't run all the way out, just keep them back into the middle for an next run down to a second chicane. On the approach to a second chicane now. So again, looking off this time, you got the 200 board and the 100 board. You'll be aiming for the 100 board this time. And again, into here it's quite misleading. Be careful with the braking with the wind direction and stuff like that. Just keep an eye on it. But into it, the 100 board is normally the reference. Heavy on the brakes again. Just build it up to 80-90%. Turn in just after the cone. Down to third. Or fourth on this lap for Soto on the way in. I normally try and do my downshifts all on the way in. I don't really like doing a downshift in between. Kind of driver preference. Normally I prefer that, but some people do this, how Soto's done. Key again, just go up on the inside here, just hook the car up. As you see the car bounces, got 20-30% trail brake on. From that left bounce, straight onto the right curb, you're aiming to get on top here. It's very important. You see Soto actually goes on and off the brake a little bit just to try and help guide the front back into the corner because he knows it's very important to get up on top of his curb as it allows then to keep the car in a neater position to maximise the exit. Again, you've got a long run up to Mulsanne corner after this. You've got to maximise the exit. So beat up on this curb gives you a neater entry and exit. But again, same with the bollards here. At this bollard, from here, build the power in. Same as the previous chicane. Just bounce it like 80%, 75% throttle, and then as soon as you come off the curb, so now 100%. On the exit curb, you can either do what Soto does, where he goes like half and half, go around it, or how I've always done it, I've always cut into this inside, like run off here. As long as you're back on at this point here, it's absolutely fine. You get the slowdown if you cut it over past this point. You see how you got like the dark part here, the shadow here and here. You want to be aiming for this point here if you're doing this cut over. Then from here you've got a shortish run up to Mulsanne corner. So into Mulsanne, bringing the car over to the left hand side, 100 board here on the outside. Almost where this cone is. This cone's probably not going to be there for many laps in the race anyway, so don't worry about it too much. Braking for this, you want to do it in a nice straight line just before, you see where this curb is? Or just where this curb starts, around this area here, is a kind of nice reference. Is again, I'd probably say this corner is the most misleading on the track with braking on entry. It's so easy to go barreling into here, thinking, oh, it's such a tight corner, it's so slow, I can carry a lot of speed in, stop the car, get the car rotated and go on the exit. You've actually got to try and roll as much speed as you physically can on the way in, so then when you get on the power on the exit, it's a massive slingshot down the run up to Indy. So, biggest recommendation is brake a little bit earlier than you think and just roll it in. Braking wise, again, so it approves. Just be nice and progressive with the brake up to the peak of like 80-90%. Don't just jump on the brake at that point instantly. Kind of aim in a straight line all the way out. People forget about this. You can just run your left wheels over the white line. As you can see, if you just here, this apex is super tight. Being out here, it just widens the entry up. Just makes it a little bit easier for you. But you can get the slowdown if you just go a little bit past this cone. Like Sota's on the limit here. So just be a bit wary of this. You can get the slowdown on the outside. But down to second. Early turning. Slow release the brakes. But you want to be cutting completely into the inside here. You'll get the slowdown on the inside of this corner, unfortunately, if you cut over where the bollards are. So just be very close to the bollard on the inside. But as soon as you're into the curb, so we go to chase. You see, we're into the curb, next to the bollard. Again, same as the chicanes. Now pick the power up. Again, jump up to 80%. Hold it there. Just be patient whilst you get the steering lock off. Once it locks off, 100%. If you're touching the gravel on the exit, it's normally because you've got an 100% power just a little bit too early and the car just pushes out wide. That's the easiest explanation for that. And if you're touching the gravel on the outside, you'll always lose like half a tenth for free on the run up to Indy because of it. So just be a bit careful of that. But as you see from Sota's on board, it's such a clean exit because of it. I minimise that wheel spin, have a clean run up for Indy. Just keep it in the middle of the track here, cut over to the inside a little bit, back into the middle. So then for Indy itself, quite a tricky corner, depending on the car as well. Some cars into Indy behave a lot nicer than others, especially with a low wing. The BMW is probably the nicest one in Indy, I'd say, over a whole race stint. Some cars, the Mercedes, for instance, the front end just bottoms all the time. The Audi wants to oversteer into here, so pick your dynamite this week, pick your poison, whatever you want to say. So just be a bit wary of this. Normally, got the Astro here on the outside. As soon as you're past the AstroTurf, so now at the end of it, do a soft initial brake of like 30% to tip the car into the corner. Once you're into the corner, do your first downshift. You can do this normally just with a rev matching, no problem at all. Up on the inside curb. And then as soon as you're past this, so now you're coming into a straight line, then put the brakes in. It's a bit scary at first, I know, probably catch a few of you out, but it's very important to do your brake in a straight line. It's the most efficient way. So if you're trying to jump on the brakes and trail brake like 20-30% brake now, the car's going to go straight. If you're off the brake and roll in, then brake in a straight line, it's going to be nicer, and it also sets up the left as well, a lot easier for you instead of being out here on the outside. So from here, into a straight line, heavy on the brakes, down to third. Early turning, even though that's like how the track falls away, you want to be going into the corner like early just to maximise this. If you miss the entry, you just lose so much time. So for that, just for the end of this curb here on the outside, turn early, aiming just to kiss the curb here a little bit, back on the power aggressively, run it all the way out. You can dip away on the gravel, no problem at all. Into Arnage, very tricky braking zone. People don't tend to do this, but you can use the outside here just to help you on the way in. Soft brake into here, 50-60%, then build it up. If you jump on the brakes again, same as previous corners, like 90%, especially in here because of the curb. If you're like 90% brake and you hit this curb, the whole car just bounces up and down the way in, and then you end up down the escape road. So just be a little bit careful of that. Normally this cone won't be here as well. Just be a bit wary of the slowdown here. You can get it if you're fully over, like your right wheels are here. So just be a bit careful. But just use this curb, as you can imagine, like and see here, right? If you're at this point here, this apex is super tight. So being out here just allows you to widen the entry up, have a nicer exit. Slow release the brakes. So at this point, once you touch the curb on the inside, you want to start bringing the power in. Just bleed it in initially up to like 50-60%. Then hold it. And then again, as soon as you get that steering lock off, then put the power up to 100%. It's very easy here if you just jump on 100% now, for instance. Just the car will slide around. You're leading in the TC. You're overheating the tyres. Just be careful of that. Be nice and close to the wall here. You can get the off track as well here, so just be a bit wary of this one. It's quite easy to get. Then you got a nice run up to Porsche curves. Cut over to the left hand side here. Bring it back into the middle. and bring it back over to the left as well. Just use all this on the inside. So Porsche curves, lucky enough for the BMW, it's quite stable. Some cars are a bit more loosened here. Normally, you want to brake just before the AstroTurf and just keep your left wheels around or next to the AstroTurf. If you brake on the Astro, you'll notice there's no grip and the car gets super loose. So if you're getting loose on entry, it's normally because you've dipped a wheel on this. So just be close to this. Soft brake, 30-40%. Down one gear initially. But from this point, down another gear to fourth or keep it in fifth. Driver preference. Very important you get your right wheels on the inside of this white line on this curb. As soon as you're on this curb, the car just grips for you and you can get on the power instantly and rotate the car through here. If you miss this curb, it's super tricky. So make sure you're up on this curb. Build the power in, up to 100%, no problem. As soon as you're on that curb, you'll know you can just feel the grip of the car. It just instantly grips for you and bites. 100% throttle. Bring it over to the right hand side. Tip it into the second part. As soon as you get up on this curb and cut over, make sure you don't hit this point. Make sure you hit the middle part of the curb and cut over at this point. Lift off a little bit, like 5-10%, just to help the car rotate. Up against the wall. On entry to the next part, lift off down to like 20-30%, but just keep enough throttle on as it just keeps that forward momentum going. Cut over the inside, back up to 100% in between, then lift off again, but this time is the first time you'll actually be applying some brake. From here, just trail brake it in, down one gear, hook the white line. Very key, you get your wheels up on this curb. As the car, you see the car bounces and comes off the curb a little bit, but you're nice and tight to the curb. Just trail brake it all the way around, and then you want to bring the power in just before you get to this exit road here. 50-60%, build it up to 100 before you get to the end of this curve here on the inside. And back off again. Unfortunately, it's one of those things like on off, but it's just one of them, unfortunately. But this whole section is just going to keep it nice and tight with this white line into karting. Lift off again, a little bit more to like 30-40%, tip it in, cut over the inside. Very important, like you get your left wheels up on this curb here. Just free rotation again, allows the car just to go from left to right very easy without having to lean on the tyres using the steering lock. Runoff wise here, just be a bit careful. Don't fully use this, just run your right wheels on top of it like this, like Sota does. And from here, nice run up to the forward chicane. So into the chicane, bring your car over to the right hand side over the runoff. Brake just before the line or just before this curb here. Pretty soft initial, like up to 60-70%. Down your first two gears. Fully cut over the left here. You can cut a lot more of this first curb than you think. You can get over this one fully. Down to third. Back on the brakes in between, just to trail brake it over this right curb. Again, this one, be a bit careful. This one you can get the slowdown on, so just use the top part of this curb. Roll it over, bit of throttle in between, and then again you're going to be braking just before you get to this curb. But you can see, so to get the car over to the right hand side, if you're over in the middle here, you've gone in too fast and not slowed the car down enough. You need to be over to the right hand side, close to this, because it gives you a nice angle when you approach the final curb. Down one more gear. Very important, I've gone down to double slow-mo here. Cut over this part, but make sure your right wheels stay on the white line. That is the most important part of a chicane. The slowdown is when your right wheels are off the white line, not on the curb. Very important you cut over the top part, but keep your right wheels on the white line. So it should look something like this. Balance the power. Again, straight away you're going straight into another right-hander, into another curb. So balance the power. Up over the curb, and as soon as the car compresses and lands, then build the power back in up to 100% smoothly. Don't just jump on the power instantly in between. If you do that, the car will just start snapping around and moving around a bit, so just be careful of that. But in full speed, this should look something like this, what Sota did. So, smooth in, full cut, little cut, over, over. And with that, if you're like bouncing in the gravel here on the outside, normally because you hit the curb on the last one wrong. If you've got a bit too aggressive on power, that's normally why you're in the gravel on the outside. But at Le Mans, end of the day, it's a lot of it's just practicing the slowdowns. If you do races without getting slowdowns, you will be near the front. And most people get slowdowns. So if you can do a clean race with no slowdowns, you'll be somewhere near. So hopefully this lap has helped.